Page 5 now, international tariff war. That's apparently what is brewing on the surface following the Trump administration's decision to impose tariffs on imports of European steel and aluminum. However, beneath the geopolitical surface, there is something else happening here, a dialogue between the countries affected and the United States.
President Trump on Thursday announcing the U.S. will slap tariffs on some of its closest allies. The tariffs on steel and aluminum imports from the European Union, Mexico, and Canada, reigniting fears of a global trade war.
What they can do, we are able to do exactly the same. It's totally unacceptable.
Even if the EU does retaliate, and even if some others do, it still will remain unlikely to be as much as 1% on our economy.
So the EU is not only fixing to retaliate with tariffs against U.S. agriculture products, for example, but they're taking their case to the World Trade Organization. The claim, the tariffs are illegal and a classic case of protectionism. On the surface, yes, they're right. They are protectionist and they are retaliatory. However, that's just the surface. Joining me now on the Daily Ledger Page 5 beat, the founder of the American Truth Project and Daily Ledger contributor Barry Nussbaum. Barry, I want to talk about tariffs, but first I want to talk about some other economic news that is a little bit more rosy, and I think we all can agree this is good stuff, and that is the black unemployment rate, the lowest been, maybe even on record, since they've been keeping track of this. And I don't like to keep track of separate ethnicities in this country. I think we ought to just look at everybody as Americans. That said, it's very, very low. And then oil production is as highest ever, thanks Barack Obama.
The reason why it's important to keep track of ethnicities, Graham, is because it has been weaponized in the past by certain members of certain parties. And what I mean by that is, if you're trying to drive your people to the polls, what better way to do that than to make them victims? The reality is, all the statistics say the economy is on fire in all sectors.
Yep.
Male, female, white collar, blue collar, ethnic, white, everybody. There's more workers than ever before employed, and it's the fastest job growth apparently in American history. It ought to be headlines.
Yeah, even for old guys like you and me. So now to the tariffs. We know our history. We know Smoot-Hawley and what it did in 1930 and what it did to agriculture. I do not believe the Trump administration is going down this path, knowing its history, and I think what Wilbur Ross said is a smokescreen. I don't believe half the things that I don't believe he believes half the things that he's saying. I think this is a negotiating tool. We've seen it with China, brought him to the negotiating table. I think this is a negotiating tool. You heard the Prime Minister of Canada say this doesn't quite make sense. It doesn't make sense, right? If they're a net importer. Yeah, I think this is a negotiating tool. You?
Well, there's two separate issues. There's China and the rest of the world. I would clobber China with everything we could possibly do because they're stealing our technology as a prerequisite to us importing into China. It's audacious theft of our intellectual property. Regarding Europe, the EU, Canada, and Mexico, I don't like tariffs. What it does is it leads to retaliation, and then it leads to higher prices for American consumers. Graham, I really hope you're right, and this is the art of the deal being played that'll lead to a better trade deal for the United States, and the tariffs will go away.
Yeah, and you have to remember that when you slap tariffs on foreign steel, domestic steel looks at that and they say, oh, well, we can raise our prices a little bit just to below that tariff price, and we'll make even more. So it drives all prices up. It means people are going to be paying more for refrigerators and cars and such. The administration knows this. So I have a feeling that, yeah, the tariffs are just taking effect, but right now, I don't think in the long term, 6 months from now, they're going to be in effect. Barry, thanks.